The Dallas Cowboys, and I want to give a major shout out to Mike Tag. Keep bringing the hype to the Cowboys Nation. We love and appreciate it. Now, can you dig it? Let's get it.
What's up, Cowboys Nation?
What is up, man? Welcome to another edition of the Cowboys Cave with Tag and K9. We got the chats already going. The chat room's already hopping, man, and it's going to be a good day, Kelly. And real quick, we'll get the business out of hand. Make sure you guys hit that like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, man. We're working hard, and I was telling Kelly, your boy's working extra hard. This is the dedication that Kelly, K9, and Mike Tag have. I got to get up at 4 in the morning to drive 3 hours to get on a boat that I really didn't want to get on to go deep sea fishing till 5 o'clock. I ain't going to get home till probably 10 or 11. But I'm still doing the show because we got to be there for our Cowboys fans, man. You know what I'm saying?
It's got to suck it up. It's the will to be a champion, and Mike has the will to be a champion, guys. Look, I did a show with COVID. Mike's doing a show where he's got to get up at 4 in the morning, guys. We are dedicated for you guys. Don't nobody else, any other regular guys that cancel the show and say, "Hey, we're gonna have to push the show off to another night, another time." That ain't happening. But
no,
I see the chat's already popping off, and Mark, I just got to tell you, man, you saying go Celtics in the chat, you're in the wrong place, man. Mr. Heat is sitting over here to my left about them Miami Heat, baby.
I tell you, they're looking good. Mark and I have been, we've been, trading some tweets back and forth. I know my man's a Celtics fan, and we ripped their hearts out at home just like we were supposed to do. Miami were the eighth seed, did the play and all that crap, man. But we are getting things done, and I tell you, the Heat's fun. I know we're gonna be talking about Cowboys now. You got me going, but I mean, the Heat. It's been a fun playoff run for them, man. I don't know if they're gonna pull it off or not, but it's been a lot of fun for them.
Well, I mean, not to get too much into the NBA, man, but I've never been really a guy who just has loyalty to one NBA team. I don't really watch a whole lot of NBA much anymore. I've kind of fallen off. I've watched a little bit more this year, but I'll say I like Jordan when he was at the Bulls, so I feel like everybody liked the Bulls back in the day. And then I gravitated to the 76ers when the 76ers got Allen Iverson. So believe it or not, I used to root for a team that was in Philly. But then Iverson went and left, and then I was a Miami Heat fan for a little bit there with Dwayne Wade.
Oh yeah,
Dwayne Wade was a baller. That finals series when they played against the Mavericks, man, dude, that was one of the best finals series. Like, that dude just took over the game. He was unstoppable, just on complete fire, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can get down with the Heat, man. Jimmy Butler has got some dog in him, man. And if that's what I like about NBA players is we got a guy with some dog. I like me some Jimmy.
Well,
Butler.
speaking of Jimmy Butler, he seems to just do something when the playoffs start. And I'm trying to see, can we get Butler maybe talk to Dak Prescott a little bit, man?
Yeah, let's get him. Let's get him to go have a conversation with Dak.
We'll get it. We're definitely going to get it going. But hey, and again, Steve, man, I'm glad you got the package set. I'm a man of my word. Man said, he's getting a little cave going, so I sent him something, and also got to send him a Cowboys Nation shirt. Now, I will say it's not the official podcast T-shirt. Kelly K9 and I are going to be working on something. Probably going to have to take place when we get to the show, get that right thing going, but. We're gonna be getting some shirts out there. We're gonna be getting some gear and spreading the love to Cowboys Nation. But it's got to be the right one. And Steve can attest. Anyone else who's gotten some of my shirts or gear, I don't go on the cheap, man. We ain't getting no crappy shirts. These things are looking good and they're fresh and they always stay nice. So we're gonna get some stuff going, almost as good as that hat. I'm glad you got that hat.
Yeah. I seen Steve in the chat commenting on the hat, man. I love it. I got it. Actually, what's funny about it is that this one got lost, and I called. Remember, I told you I called our Dallas Cowboys pro shop woman I gave credit to, Davon, and I called her. She got me a new hat. Well, now I got two of these hats, so I got two. So I can wear this one now and save the other one to be brand new, fresh out the box when I get it back, because the other one came in too. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I got a 2-for-1 special going on.
Oh,
So
we got a lot of stuff going on, but we
we
got
do.
just quick announcement, last thing, and we're going to get to business. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. But we got Ian Beckles, who's going to be coming into the cave Wednesday, Special Night Wednesday live. He was an offensive lineman for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but more importantly, he was an offensive lineman for the Philadelphia Eagles in 97 and 98. Your boy, that was the game that I went to when we ripped their hearts out, came back and beat him, and our old kicker couldn't finish the job, so we stole that victory from him. But I checked his stats; he was 1-3 against us when he was with the Eagles. So we're gonna have a good time with him. He's an awesome dude. He's a Tampa Bay radio legend. So we're gonna be talking a lot of football. It's not just gonna be career oriented, but it's gonna be a lot of Cowboys and Eagles, and also what his thoughts on the Cowboys are today. So make sure you guys check that out. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yes, sir. Always good to have some guests in, and when we do this live, the chat gets to interact and ask some questions, and keep this thing going. And sometimes we let you guys take control of the wheel and kind of steer the show in a different direction. And that's what I like, because sometimes if I'm running out of a question, I look over to the chat, and there you guys are to bail old K9 out. So
we're gonna, that one's gonna be very interactive like that, because it won't be going through the career so much, but I'm gonna have to hold you back a little bit. I know when I get them Eagles things going, man. I'm happy. You're on your best behavior as well as it can be.
It's like a part-time job, man. Is fucking with these Eagles fans. It's almost like a part-time job, man. It's too damn easy, man. It's too damn easy. These guys bring it to me, and I can't help it, man. I can't help it. Sometimes I spend the better part of a day just arguing with Eagles fans, and then at the end of the day, I'm like, what did I get done today, man? I don't know if I did shit today.
No, and we're working on one other guest. I don't want to jinx it. All I'm going to say is he's a Canes goat, and he was also a Cowboy. Now I know you guys' first thing to come to your head, Michael Irvin, and not Michael Irvin, but
not yet anyway.
Not yet. We're working on that. But if you're a huge Canes fans from back in the day, he's an OG for the Canes, heavily involved in the Canes. Also played with the Cowboys. So, and I believe he was a first-round draft pick, not of the Cowboys. Those are some clues. So any of my hardcore Canes fans probably know who it is, but we'll see what happens. We're trying to get the schedules figured out, but we're going to make it happen. So enough of that kind of stuff. Kelly, what is going on? What is on your mind with the Cowboys and the chat? You guys, we're going to get through this. You guys are hopping, so we're going to get that stuff going too.
Well, we got a question in the chat, and I just want to let Steve know we're going to come back to that. He asked about higher expectations, Tolbert or Turpin. We're going to come back to that, but I want to get it started on. There's been a few rumors getting floated.
Oh wait, one more. We got a beautiful question from Jimmy D. Is that a possibility yet or no?
What about unblocking Carl? I mean, I'll unblock him, but if he comes back to the show and he starts with that same shit again, Carl's ass is getting blocked. I think Carl is currently serving a life sentence because he's stalking my man Mike over here on goddamn Instagram. So you know what I'm saying? You don't get out of prison on good behavior by stalking my boy Mike. So I'm gonna have to deny parole denied.
There you go.
But no,
go ahead, brother. What's on your mind?
I want to talk about some stuff is getting floated around. Dalvin Cook is a guy, a running back, who has been getting talked about. Some things are getting picked up. Minnesota removed him from all their media, removed him from their banner. He's unhappy. That doesn't look like they're going to come to a clear resolution. Looks like Minnesota is getting ready to move on from Dalvin Cook. Now, I don't know if that's in the form of a trade or if that's going to be them just cutting bait with him. I don't think with the deep value of running backs that a lot of people are looking to, trade. And I don't think Minnesota would get a lot for a Dalvin Cook. But if he gets cut, the question was posed, would Cowboys Nation, would Cowboys and the Dallas Cowboys be interested in Dalvin Cook? Now, I have to say for me, I would absolutely snag him up in a hot minute. And the reason why, a couple of reasons. One, Cook is a good blocker. He instantly comes in and steps in for that role of Ezekiel Elliott as a pass blocker, which we need desperately because right now we don't really have that. I also think that Dalvin Cook is an upgrade from Zeke, plain and simple. Now, I was looking on Twitter today and I was seeing some of the reactions and some of the things people were saying. There were some people saying that Dalvin Cook is often injured. He's injured too much. He's not as reliable as Zeke. So I just looked up the last 3 seasons just so I could find out, all right, how do they compare? Stack them up side by side, last 3 seasons, right? So we've got Dalvin Cook played 44 games, right? In those 44 games, he averaged 4.7 yards a carry. He has 3,890 yards and 30 touchdowns. All right. He played all 17 games in 2022. So I'm not really sure where this injury thing is coming from because he played in every game last year.
Yeah.
And he excels in the pass protection. Zeke, last 3 years, he's played 47 games. So only 3 more than Cook. That's it. And he's got 2,857 yards. So almost 1,000 less yards than Cook. 28 TDs, which is still a pretty good number, and average 4 yards a carry. So look, Cook is the upgrade there, man. If you can get a guy like Dalvin Cook, you absolutely add him to this roster, and he 100% steps in immediately and makes this football team better. So without question, I would add Cook. And anybody that tells you otherwise or says that Cook wouldn't be a good addition or Cook's washed, he's too injured, they haven't been watching Dalvin Cook play football. He's been a very highly productive running back for the last 3 seasons, and I would absolutely take him on our roster. What do you think about that, Mike?
Yeah, and the funny thing is I got to be straight, man. I got to be honest. Like if you say Dalvin Cook, injury prone comes to my head, but I'm wrong. I mean, I don't know why there's a perception. I don't know why there's a perception. I don't follow Minnesota much, so obviously maybe it was the Cowboy games he missed. Hopefully, I don't know, but it's always something that you hear. But yeah. I agree with you. I think he would be a huge upgrade. I don't want to put him down, but a huge upgrade. Is he younger? I mean, he seems like he's got more juice. So I'm not sure.
I think as far as Zeke's age, I think he is. If I remember right, I think Dalvin Cook was 28 years old, and I think Zeke's closer to around 30. So I think he's still a couple years younger than Zeke. But I mean, he definitely just brings what we've been looking for. We've talked about the fact that we'd like a more physical back, a bigger back. I mean, we get a guy like Dalvin Cook and he instantly steps in and fills that role that we've all been talking about missing. So it's a very intriguing thing that I would 100% be interested in if I'm the Cowboys.
Yeah. And your point is they took him off the banner, right? They put their backup running back on all the media stuff. So that's got to tell you there's trouble brewing.
Oh yeah.
I don't think anyone's going to trade for him because of the contract. So the question will be when they cut him, I mean, he's free to go where he wants. So now you look at what teams are needing a running back. Where could he fit? And Dallas has a cap room. You probably can get him on a 1 year if they. I know Dallas loves that. Maybe get him on a 1 year, 2 years, something like that deal. And I'd feel good with it. I'm still, like you and I have talked about it, and we've talked about it on this show. If there's a position group that just has me concerned, it's the running backs. And it's not looking down on Pollard, but coming off an injury. And I'm not sold on Jones. And maybe I know my man, I believe Law Nation was talking about is like, hey, give the guy a chance and let's see what he can do.
Malik Davis.
Looking back at the couple years, I mean, 2020, he had a nice year. He had a nice year with the Bucs, but 21 was not very good. And last year with the Chiefs, I mean, he was non-existent, and you had a 7th round draft pick, running back kind of take over. So I just don't know. I just don't have a lot of faith in that. So running back scares me, and I'm a running back guy.
Well, I mean, and when you look at the running back position this year, it reminds me a lot of the receiver position last year, right? I mean, we go in with it actually worse, in my opinion, because last year at least we had a healthy CeeDee Lamb. We knew we had a true number one. Right now in this running back room, you've got Tony Pollard coming back from an injury, and there's no guarantees, man. Face it, there's no guarantees when you're coming back from an injury that you're going to see the same explosiveness, the same cut. Power, because it was a leg injury. So, I mean, it's not like it's, we saw what happened with Dak. I mean, we saw what happened with Dak. Obviously that was a little bit more severe of an injury, but still. So that is up in there. And then after Pollard, who you got? You've got a guy in Malik Davis, who a lot of people want to give him a chance, but he's really unproven. Hasn't shown what he could do over the course of the season. You've got a guy in Jones who wasn't on the field much at all last year. And that was, versus a team in Kansas City that was really searching for a good running back for a while until Pacheco kind of busted onto the scene, and he couldn't even make it on the field with them. And then after that, you've got Deuce Vaughn, who's a 6th round rookie. So are you going to pin your hopes and dreams on a rookie? No, because I don't think they're looking at Deuce Vaughn as a guy who can come in and contribute like that right away. Yeah. He's going to be a guy that's going to get a handful of carries a game. You're going to want to have another established running back. And like I said, who better than Dalvin Cook, man? Now, you get that guy. He's an upgrade to your roster. And I'll be honest with you, man. You add Dalvin Cook to that roster, and I think that puts us as the prohibitive favorite for the NFC East. Like hands down, I think that makes us the best offense in
Yeah.
the NFC East because I think that gives us. I mean, I think we're right there with the Eagles with receivers, but I like our. I just like our position groups better on offense than I do Philly, honestly. And then, their new offensive coordinator and what's going on there. I feel like that would give us a boost on offense and kind
No,
of put us over
I'm
the
with
edge.
you. I would do it in a second if Minnesota lets them go. And I guess I don't know how their salary cap thing works. If it's a post, what is that, post June 1st cut, like we did with Zeke, if it's something like
Yeah.
that. I mean, they definitely need to explore it. We're win now, right? We're win now. So Malik Davis, I mean, if they believe in him and maybe they see something we don't, Dalvin Cook reminds me, maybe I'm wrong, but he reminds me a little bit of the Green Bay running back. Who is it that always killed us? Adam Jones. I always want to say Adam Jones.
Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones. Yeah, I mean he just reminds me a lot of him. And I think McCarthy does love to run the ball. He does love to get different guys involved. He's always kind of did that with the Saints and with the Packers in his time there. They've always had a couple running backs. So I think he likes to work it, and they got to do. I think they got to do something. I don't know. The defense is where it needs to be. I think the offense. We got the receivers. I like the tight end group. The offensive line, as long as we don't have any catastrophes, I think we'll be good there. The running back is if we're winning and it's the fourth quarter, do we got a guy that can be a closer and that can pound the middle and end the game? Right now, I just don't know if we have that.
Yeah. I that's what I question too, which I mean, like I said, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But
did Kareem Hunt get signed? Didn't he get signed?
I think he's still a free agent, actually.
Yeah.
I think he's still a free agent.
He was one I was thinking about too, but I don't know if he got signed by somebody. But I just wish they would have brought in, if they're going to move on from Zeke, I just wish they would have brought in maybe an upgrade. But like I said, maybe I'm being a little too hard on Jones, and I need to give him a chance.
Well, well, I guess we're gonna find out. You know what I mean? Cowboys will find out in training camp soon enough, which starts soon. So that's
why everyone's washed my man Ultra. Man, all we need is a guy. We need another running back. We don't need a bell cow. We're not looking this offense in the way these running backs are. We're not looking for a guy to carry the ball 25.
well,
30.
yeah. Here's
to be effective. So I'll stand by that.
The thing is that we've got a backfield that's not gonna. We don't need a featured back. The way that this Cowboys team has got a backfield, they're gonna be even if we signed a Dalvin Cook, right? Then you're talking about Dalvin Cook, and you're talking about Tony Pollard. You've got Malik Davis who's going to get some carries, and you've got Deuce Vaughn that's going to get some carries. And if they keep Jones, I think if they sign Cook, I think Jones might get cut.
Yeah. I think Jones has been the insurance policy.
Yeah, exactly.
Grab him, and if something else comes along better, it's kind of like the girlfriend, right? You're going to hold on to her until something better comes along. You're not going to commit to her just yet, right? You're gonna hold out. So maybe that's what the Cowboys are doing.
Well, and Ultra said Chiefs had a rookie running back, a couple of bodies, and won a Super Bowl. Yeah, they also had Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, that makes a little difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I mean, let's not compare those two, man, because nobody's like Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes could go out there and win it with some street NFL players. So he also didn't have very good receivers. So that's not really the greatest comparison. I'm not trying to go into the season with a rookie and a couple of bodies. I don't think that's going to bode well.
We don't have. If we had Patrick Mahomes behind center, then maybe, but we're not.
Right.
There's only one of him. There's one, and everyone else is notches below, in my opinion.
Yeah, we like Dak, but we understand that Patrick Mahomes is in a different category altogether. So, all right. Well, with that being said, though, kind of moving into training camp, what is a position battle that you have that you're anxious for, that you're looking forward to seeing play out in training camp, that you think is going to be something worth watching this year? Because I feel like there's several different position groups that are going to be kind of exciting to watch this year, but I'm curious as what your thoughts are and what position group you're looking at.
Well, and I'll say definitely in the chat, let us know as well. I don't know. I'm going to give a plug to George Teague's show, Teague's Takes. I don't know if you guys watched it. He had Darren Woodson on. Excellent, excellent interview. And I mean, we love Darren Woodson. So I mean, I enjoyed it. Listened to it. I listened to it twice. Once live, and I listened to it on my way to work. So Woodson kind of had the same concerns I had a little bit, and that's linebacker. And now again, we're gonna talk linebacker. Parsons is a pass rusher. We're not talking about, don't include Micah Parsons in there. And the one thing he said with concern at our linebackers is we just don't have a guy that's going forward. He goes, if you look at our guys, the first step is a little bit of a hop. And he's like, I don't know if that's a scheme. I don't know if that's what they want to do, but he's not 100% sold on LVE. Obviously, you got Jabril Cox, you got Clark, Overshown. They talked about him kind of being a tweener. And Teague said, you got any advice for him? And he said, man, he better eat. He needs to put on some weight. Obviously, they got Harper they drafted. They got Malik Jefferson. He was a free agent. So not a lot of big star power. I know my man Ultra Cowboy. We want Pro Bowlers at every position. I don't need Pro Bowlers at every position. I just want to make sure we got some guys to do the job. So I would say what's going to happen at that linebacker position is something that I've got concern with. I don't know if you can ease my pain or if that's something that's on your list.
Yeah, it's one of the positions that I think is going to be interesting to watch just because of the fact that they're talking about putting Parsons as kind of the down guy, that basically moving him to defensive end where he's rushing the passer. So because, he did play his fair share of linebacker last year. So if you're taking him out of the equation, then you're trusting it to a bunch of unprovens right now, besides Leighton Vander Esch. Now, I'll be honest with you. He played pretty good last year. He surprised me with the way that he played. I thought he played great. So, and I agree there with Mark. If he can stay healthy, I think he can be the guy that leads those linebackers. The question is, are we going to see the growth from one year to the next when it comes to Jabril Cox, when it comes to Damone Clark? Because we didn't see a lot from those guys last year. They didn't really get on the field much. Are we going to see growth? Are we going to see a jump from them? And are we going to and then the Overshown is, what's he going to do? Is he going to be able to step in and contribute right away? Because you're right. We've got some youth and inexperience at that position. And we know how important it is to have a good linebacking crew. So if that's not, if that's an area of weakness on this defense, we could be in for some troubles considering, just the style of football that is played nowadays. You need good linebackers. You need guys that can cover.
And I think one of the things that I think the linebacker core can be helped from is obviously, getting Mozzie Smith, getting that run, the defensive tackle, and getting those guys pushing forward and getting that going. So that was the other thing that, Woodson talked about. He said, hey, he goes, that was for the Cowboys, what they need was a great draft pick for them, because that's one of the things that's always been up the middle, has always been a concern a little bit for the Cowboys. And I think that could help the linebacker core. And you talk about Jabril Cox. I mean, we all have that vision in that game where I think it was Daniel Jones, right? And he was running it, and Jabril Cox sideline to sideline.
Yeah.
He just absolutely just laid him out and stopped him. So that's what we see. We just haven't, since that injury, we just, we didn't really see much from him last year. Is it going to be that 2-year thing where this year will be his opportunity? I mean, we've got some guys that went to, a lot of them who Cox and I think it was it Harper or Clark? One of them, they both went to LSU. The other one, I think, went to Oklahoma State. So we got some guys at some big schools.
Yeah.
Do some good defensive players. So that's the concern for me is we've got to get some production out of our linebackers. And again, I like LVE. I think what Woodson was saying, maybe you agree, maybe you don't. He didn't really consider him a physical linebacker, for what it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, he's I don't know. You see some of it at times. You see flashes of it, but yeah, I mean, he is but he may not be physical, but he's a guy that just seems to be around the ball a lot. Makes a lot of tackles. I mean, I think he was the third leading tackler last year on the team. So, I mean, he can, He's definitely a guy that doesn't shy away from contact, but yeah, he may not be one of your guys, when you think about like a linebacker, a physical linebacker. He's not like a Ray Lewis. He's not, he's not like a guy like that. He's not like even, I think somebody earlier had mentioned Devin White. He's not like that kind of guy. So, he's a different kind of a linebacker, but hey, he can be very effective when he's playing well. So we need, and I think the Cowboys front office thinks they can get that out of him. Obviously, they signed him to that contract extension. So I think he can be that guy. We're just going to have to, he's probably going to have to elevate the play, around him. So, because he's going to be playing with some guys that are a little bit younger, some inexperience, and he's going to have to elevate the play of those guys. So we'll see if he can rise to that occasion.
Aaron Curse, I mean, we sometimes forget about him. He's sometimes used as that linebacker.
They can bring him down and play him in the box and use him and put him in a linebacker position, play that strong. So I like that too, because that guy's kind of a Swiss Army knife, man.
And then that gives you Wilson, and Hooker, on the field as well. So I mean, Quinn, the thing I always hate to say position groups. I mean, when you got Quinn, it's hard to hard to question or be concerned with anything he does, because I think he's done a great job in his time here.
Yeah, he's dialed in, man. If I trust anybody to make decisions on who needs to play where and who needs to be at what spots, I'm going to trust Dan Quinn. So
thoughts on Barr. I mean, we kind of forgot about him, but I don't, he's not on the team, right? He's a free agent.
Not on the team. So yeah, I mean, as far as who's going to replace him, it's either going to be, it's going to be Jabril Cox, or it's going to be Damone Clark.
You and I could have covered about as good as he did, though.
That's just.
I mean, that wasn't his game. That's not his game.
Barr was definitely not a cover guy for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, he was solid. He was solid on the run. Right?
Yeah, he didn't play too bad. And you know what? Hey, we when we look at this roster, it seems like every year there's teams that pick guys up that are cuts from other teams. That guys that don't make the roster on one team doesn't mean they might not come and contribute, on the Cowboys. So, let's not forget that, in training camp, there'll be some cuts. There's still some free agents out there that are sitting out there because teams like their draft. They want to evaluate their talent in training camp, see what they got. And then you still got, some guys that are out there in the free agent pool that could still come in and be contributors and be depth and contribute to this team. So we're not done with the roster completely yet, but for the most part, we pretty much know what we got.
Yeah. You want to get T.O. back? I mean, the man, he still looks like he can play.
Man, the man's got probably one of the best workout regimens and health, and I mean, he's a physical freak specimen, but I'm going to pass on bringing Terrell.
What are they doing? Beach football? Is that a league he started?
Yeah, I think so, man. I mean, the dude's just probably still going to be running routes and making tryout videos for NFL teams at the age of 60. But I think, I think we're going to pass on getting Terrell Owens and the Cowboys. But for me, the position battle for me, actually, I couldn't really narrow it down, man. So I went with two, so I'll speed through them, not make it too long. But I got my first one is defensive tackle. I think that, we carried 5 last year. Looks like we're going to carry 5 again this year. Right now on the roster, it's all the same except for the addition of Mozzie and Tristan Hill's off the team. So Mozzie kind of takes that place and fills in that role, hopefully a lot better than Tristan Hill.
Yeah.
But so you've got Hankins, Gallimore, Mozzie, Quentin Bohanna, and O.C. Odigizua, my boy. I love him. I think he's got some nastiness to him.
Yeah.
I really like him. So I think that will probably be the 5 that we go with. I think
go with that one more time. Get a little slower for me. I'm old.
We got Hankins.
Yeah.
We got Neville Gallimore. We got Mozzie Smith, Quentin Bohanna, and O.C. Odigizua.
Okay.
So those are the 5 we got. And it's all the same as what we had last year, with the minus of Tristan Hill, who's no longer with us, and the addition of Mozzie Smith. He's basically filled that roster spot. So I think that that is going to be something interesting to watch, obviously, because Mozzie Smith is that number 1 pick. So to just watch Dan Quinn develop him and to see how quick he jumps into that role and how disruptive he can be in that role. And will we see, will we see a little bit more from, a jump, I guess I should say, from Bohanna? I think he's had some injury issues and stuff. So it's going to be interesting position battle to watch, just because I think that that's the position group that I kind of feel needs to take a jump. You know what I mean? We need to
Yeah.
see them come up to that next level. So that's the group that I'm really interested in watching in training camp and watching the battles and watching, Mozzie battle with these interior offensive linemen. And then, the other, it's not really a group. It's the fourth wide receiver spot.
I was going to say that you'd be talking Ultra at Golston, beating out Gallimore. We can't have that on this show. I've told you guys this over and over. The best intro in the business.
Gallimore's got the intro. We can't let that go.
We can't let that happen. But no, go ahead.
No, yeah, I agree with you. We got to keep Gallimore on the team because we got to that intro is the best in the biz. But the other one, really, it's not a position group. It's just it's that fourth wide receiver spot. Who's going to be that fourth wide receiver? Because I think we're all, we know it's going to be Gallup, Cooks, Lamb. Those are our starting three, right? But that fourth wide receiver spot, man, we've got a lot of names on there, but not a lot of names anybody knows. We got Antonio Callaway.
From Cleveland. I remember him.
Cleveland. We've got a Dontario Drummond. We got Simi Fehoko, which people have their hopes in. Mark was on the show last week and talked about Simi. So is he going to finally use an opportunity to snag a spot on the roster and be that fourth contributing wide receiver? You got Dennis Houston, who's shown some flashes. Obviously, Jalen Tolbert, who Ultra loves and thinks that he's going to be.
He's wondering why he's not our number one.
Yeah, if I remember right, to quote Ultra, I think he said Jalen Tolbert was the next Jerry Rice. Don't I'm pretty sure that's what he said. But then we've got Kevontae Turpin. Are they going to try to work him into this offense a little bit more? Does he get a shot in year two to maybe start cracking? And then we got our 7th round draft pick Jalen Brooks out of South Carolina, which I watched some highlights of him, and he's got a little bit of talent, man. He had a game against Georgia where he had a absolutely just guy draped all over him and had a sick one-handed catch against Georgia that, he's a rookie, 7th round pick, but the Cowboys have been known to find depth in some of the later rounds. So that 4th spot for wide receiver is going to be something interesting to watch in training camp as well, and how that plays out. So I don't know what you think about the whole wide receiver thing.
And give a shout out to my man, our man Primetime Phil for coming to check out the show, man. What's up? But to me, that you hit it, is like, what are they going to do after Gallup? Yeah. Now, for me, and I know my man Ultra probably doesn't want to hear it, but I think for this team, they're praying and hoping that it's Tolbert. They need Tolbert because of where they drafted him, the skills that he does have and did have in college. We need to see that translate into the NFL, and we don't need a superstar. We just need a man who can be a good 4th receiver. So I think it's got to be Tolbert. Yeah. Houston started, he beat him out. The undrafted free agent beat out Tolbert and got the start in opening day. And then he kind of disappeared, got cut a few weeks later, and then got brought back. So I think, someone had put our wide receiver T.O. today is probably, you would take him over any of our receivers after 3. And you might make an argument for that, but I'm expecting Tolbert. I don't know. Maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. Maybe I'm just, love the kid because where he went to college and I seen him play and stuff. So I'm just hoping it's him. I know Simi he's been a camp favorite and sometimes, going into the preseason, a lot of people are loving him, but he hasn't, kind of gotten going. The wild card is with Turpin. Because if you're keeping Turpin, which obviously, right? You're not going to cut Turpin. That's a wide receiver spot. So you got all these guys, and there's so many seats on the bus. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But to your point, I think it's going to be it's an area of concern because we've got to get we don't have to get a lot of production out of them, but they got to be ready to step up. If we lose, if Gallup, hey, he's been hurt. Right, if he gets hurt, or got hurt, we need a guy that we can depend on.
Yeah, exactly. So they got to, they definitely got to figure that out. I think Turpin stays on this team just because I don't know that there's a guy on the roster that can do what he did last year. Now, I know what when we had talked about it and you said you're kind of surprised that he made the Pro Bowl. And I was too. He didn't return anything from the touchdowns, but I think if I remember right, he was the leading returner in terms of yards per game, because he never actually broke one and took one back to the house, but there were several times where he'd bust it to the 35, or he'd take it, to almost midfield, and he might not have always took one back, but he was close several times. And I think, and that was his first, year in the NFL.
Yeah.
Obviously he had been doing it, and, in the, what was it? The Canadian football, was it USFL or that he played in, or
He was in the USFL.
USFL. Okay. So
Yeah.
in the USFL he played, and, and that's obviously that's a different speed. It's a different, game's a different speed. So adjusting that in NFL, getting a shot in the NFL. So, we got a great, special teams guy too, our coach. So I think that, a little bit more time, a little bit more development with him. I think he'll definitely get his opportunities for returning game. I don't see anybody on the roster right now who could fill that role, really.
Yeah.
I kind of looked up and down the roster, and I'm like, well, who would that be if Turpin don't go? So I feel like Turpin's a lock to be on the roster, but is he going to be good enough to interject himself into the wide receiver room in that conversation? Or is he just a wide receiver that's a special teams guy that maybe gets, a gadget play here or there? But, with his speed, he's intriguing.
Yeah.
And you'd like to see this coaching staff, use speed, because obviously, in this NFL, that's what everybody's looking for, is speed. Because if you got speed, you can create separation, you can get a guy in open field. That creates problems for defenses. So, I mean, it's interesting though, because we got a lot of names on that roster, but not a lot of names anybody knows. So.
No, and I'll defend EJ. I know EJ and Winston we're Turpin to make way. I don't know, man. The one thing I'll say is I don't know what game it was, and someone help me. But damn it, Turpin had an opportunity to take one to the house, and he ran into the other guy, and all he had to do was make one cut, and he was gone. And I mean, I'm not a kick returner, man, so I'm not going to sit here and criticize. I hate to be critical, because I mean, it's like missiles coming at you. But I just remember that game. I don't know if it was a big game. I'm almost positive a big game. I don't know if a San Francisco game in the playoffs. Was that it? Someone just said playoffs. Okay. Yeah. I said that. Yeah, that's the one. Thank you, EJ, for helping. And it's like, dude, and maybe that's why it's in my head. And I say, how is he in a Pro Bowl? I saw a couple of things, and I don't know what your take is. And I'll get these other guys, in the chat say it too. How do you feel when that ball is kicked and it's a touchback? Do you just pray that they stay there and take the touchback, get the ball in the 25, or do you want to see them run it back? Because it drives me crazy when they take it out.
I'd rather them get the ball in the 25, just because, I mean, more often than not, you don't see most of these returners they may make it close, but they don't make it all the way to the 25. So, I mean, the return game has changed a lot, man. They've made it to where, returners, you don't see guys. I mean, when's the last time that you've seen a guy like a Devin Hester in the NFL? You know what I mean? Who's the dynamic return guy in the NFL right now? Could anybody name who that would be? That's a guy that you're just like, now that guy could take it back to the house at any given time. I don't think there's really anybody like that anymore, because of the rule changes that they've made that make it harder to, for special teams, basically. So, yeah, man, it's
just a lot of, there's a little mix. There's some that want to see him run it out, some don't. And to give credit to Steve, this is it for me, is the risk reward. And believe me, I'm the fan, and I'll tell you this, I'm the fan that says don't take it out. And when that some bitch is going down the field, I'm up screaming, saying, yes, I'm glad he took it out. No, but the penalties, they did a analytical stuff. If you're into that, I'm not too wild on it, but there's certain things that you do see trends. When you get a penalty and you start inside the 15 and inside the 10, the chances of scoring anything are slim to none. And it goes drastically different from the 25 and beyond. So that's what I'm saying. It's that risk reward, I guess. Knowing the time of the game and knowing all that kind of stuff maybe has something to do with it. But I've seen these guys, and it may not be, I'm not calling out Turpin, but when you watch football and you see these guys take it out and they get absolutely destroyed at the 10-yard line or destroyed at the 15, and then you end up punting the ball and the team's getting to midfield and then they get a field goal out of it. So I'm a little bit conservative. That's why you see I like the running game. It's just to, reduce the risk. I mean, Jimmy Johnson, I come from that school, and that's what he was a lot about, is limit mistakes and this kind of stuff. So that's just my opinion, but I know it's split.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like a coin toss guy, man. A lot of the times I'm just like, you know what, just take the knee, get the ball at the 25, don't risk it. But when a guy gets it and he's like 2 yards, and if he's in the back of the end zone, I'm like, just knee it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If he's right on that white chalk line, a lot of times I'm just like, run it. Because I mean, and then there were some games, I will admit, there were some games with Turpin that I did say I thought he did great for his first year in the NFL. I really did.
No, I'm not
were
talking. I think he he definitely was electric for us.
and I seen some stuff kind of going in the chat. He did have some games where he did make some mental mistakes. There were some times where I said, like, hey man, if he just goes left, man, he's
well,
got
it was
a
a San
touchdown.
Francisco game, man. It was that game.
Yeah.
And think about the difference in that. That's So you're right.
So I mean, and like I said, you're adjusting to the speed of the USFL versus the NFL, two totally different things. So let's give him another shot. You know what I mean? He still did good enough to make the Pro Bowl, even though it surprised you. It surprised me too. But this is his second year, so let's see what he can do, man. Because I like the speed and the versatility that he has, and his potential. I think he's got potential to be a guy for us that can, and all we need is to flip the field, man. You flip the field, you get that, at least once in a game. If you can flip the field one time in that return game per game, it's huge because every possession counts. So if you can just do that one time in a game, I'll take that, man. So
Jimmy loves speed, but Jimmy didn't like mistakes. He did not like mental mistakes, my friend. And I've watched Jimmy Johnson since he was at Miami. So I go way, way back with Jimmy Johnson. There's certain things he didn't like. A couple guys fumbled the ball. You remember, what was his name? Curvin Richards. He was the running back for the Cowboys. We were beating, I want to say it was the Bears. This is where I'm going to test my memory. This is just going on the fly. I want to say it was the Bears. We were beating the hell out of the Bears. Brought the backups in. Game was over. Didn't mean nothing. Curvin Richards fumbled the ball. I think not once but twice. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong on that. He was cut the next day. Jimmy Johnson don't like mistakes. And this was he was the backup. He might have been the third string at the time. He was not. I think he might have been the backup's backup. And it was twice. So Jimmy Johnson don't play with mistakes, and that's what I'm saying. You take the ball out and you get smashed at the 10-yard line, it's gonna be a problem with Jimmy Johnson. You fumble the ball or you make a wrong decision. That's the way Jimmy Johnson was. If you watch the interview we did with Dave Campo, I mean, what did he say? He said, Jimmy Johnson, just to compare him and Barry Switzer, and just this was his mindset and the way he was triggered. Dave Campo coached with him back in Miami all the way through this time with the Cowboys. So they were together a long, long time. Jimmy Johnson didn't know one of the kids' names of Dave Campo. Barry Switzer took over the Cowboys. Within 1 week, he knew his whole damn family. It was just, and it's not a knock on Jimmy Johnson or Barry Switzer. It's just the way he was wired. He was just, Jimmy Johnson was on another level, man, as a coach to me. But
no, he absolutely was. And I mean, you heard when, like you said, when you referenced it, when Campo talked about Jimmy Johnson, he did not undersell or understate the genius of Jimmy as a football mind. Jimmy Johnson was a football genius.
Yeah.
So, but that there's a lot of interesting things to watch, for the Cowboys. It'll make for some interesting training camp, but I think we're off to the right start, and which leads me to that one last question here.
Just Jimmy Johnson left Michael Irvin at the airport. That is true too, because he was late.
Yeah,
I think he almost did. He almost did that to Aikman, or he's on the bus. I think he left Aikman, and Aikman I think had to go back with someone else because of the press conference was dragging out. I think that was. It was somewhere, but that happened. I think it happened with Aikman in a bus, but yeah, he don't.
Well, I think that you answered this question before. I think we've talked about it before, but I was just looking at the roster today, and it kind of got me thinking, like, so ultimately, when you look at this roster, pieces we've added to this roster, do you like this roster better than the 2022 roster? And what's just what specifically about it gives you hope, gives you optimism for this 2023 season?
Yeah, and definitely give us your thoughts in the chat too. I think it's a better roster, and we talked about it last week when we were kind of giving our going through that schedule and giving our first impressions of the schedule. Maybe the wins might not be as much as last year. Maybe they might have one less win or the same, but
Yeah.
I think the roster's better. I think the roster's better at receiver. I think offensive coordinator, I think is better. I think the change is a positive change. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe I'll be looked at as a fool to think that, but I just really believe that. And I think this defense, with Gilmore and, yeah, Gilmore is not, he's not the 25-year-old Gilmore, but we don't need that.
Nope.
And we talked about it with Darius Slay. All this stuff was talked with him a few years ago. Well, Gilmore is younger or at the same age as him. His Pro Bowls and his defensive MVPs were after Darius Slay. So I think he's going to be a great number two. I like the maturity of this team. I think is what makes them better next year as well. So I think the defensive tackle. I think obviously Mozzie, another year of Tyler Smith. I mean, the growth that we have. I like this team a lot over last year. Again, the running back is my little bit of a concern, but I think
Yeah.
that'll work itself out by training camp.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the reason why I feel that way is kind of just going back on what we've talked about in the past is that we've addressed all of the, maybe not all, but we've addressed most of the areas of weaknesses that we had last year. And I think in all those positions that were weak at last year, I think we got better. I think we got deeper. So yeah, I feel like this is a better roster. And I mean, I feel like the Cowboys are in my opinion, I feel like we're the favorite in the NFC East right now. And I know people will say, well, it's Philly and this and that, but I still look at the losses that they've had, man. And I just think that that's not been, I just feel like there's so many people, whether it's in the national media or, not necessarily on Philly's side, because it seems like everybody in the national media is just sold on Philly.
Oh, hold on.
They're going to roll right into the Super Bowl. But I mean, you lose your offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator along with these defensive starters, and they're depending on rookies to pick up and play and play at that starter level. And I just don't buy it.
Yeah.
And if you talk to Eagles fans, they'll tell you, well, we didn't need our defensive coordinator. He was garbage and this and that. I mean, okay. I mean, maybe, yeah, I did see Dak drop 40 on that defense, but you're still going to a new defensive scheme. I mean, do we remember when we brought in Mike Nolan and we thought that we couldn't get, was it Nolan that had us at the very 30 bottom of the bottom? Was it Nolan?
Yeah, was it Nolan? Was it Nolan? I think it was.
I think it was Nolan before it was Marinelli, because then Marinelli came in after that. And we're sitting there, but we're thinking to ourselves, we're like, well, Mike Nolan, man, Mike, we got ourselves a guy. Nolan, he's a guy.
Well, he was the first year of with McCarthy.
Yeah, and because he had been in San Francisco, right?
Yeah, he was a defensive coordinator, I think, in Atlanta, then San Francisco.
San Francisco. And, you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, you're like, all right, man, this guy could bring some good shit to the table, man. And because there was some high hopes around Nolan going into the season. I remember a lot of people saying that they thought he was a good fit. They thought he was going to do good things for D. And he came in and he just stunk the joint up, man. So the fact that they're not only dealing with a new defensive coordinator, but now a new offensive coordinator as well, Jalen Hurts, young quarterback, third year, new offensive coordinator, going to have a new offensive system. I mean, you can't understate those things, man, and just say, hey, you know what? Philly's going to be fine. They're in the Super Bowl last year. I get they got a good roster, but nothing is guaranteed, man, especially when you talk about all these changes they've had on both sides of the ball and replacing some talent on that defensive side of the ball. I see us as the favorite in the NFC East. I like our roster better. I think we're the more complete roster. I think we've got more consistency. I know we have a new offensive coordinator, but I think that's going to be good for Dak. So, yeah, I'm all in, man. I think we're going to have a good season this year, and I'm excited, man. I think this roster's got the potential to do some good things.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. Nolan would still be here if Micah was there. I don't think Micah would have saved that defense, my man. That was I
Man,
lived through. I had to go to a couple of those games, and you want to talk about just absolutely just pathetic on defense, just scheme wise. You're talking, just holes you can run a truck through. You could.
yeah, it was
I
bad,
mean, it was
man.
just
Shit, Charles Haley and fucking Lawrence Taylor couldn't have saved Mike
no,
Nolan's
no.
defense, man.
No. It was just a bad scheme, And Nolan's he's been a very solid coach. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from him, but I just think it was either a bad fit here,
A
scheme.
bad
I mean,
fit.
obviously COVID. I mean, I don't want to crap on the guy too much. I mean, he came in during that COVID time, so they really couldn't maybe implement everything that they wanted to do. And they made a lot of wholesale changes, and I think that's something McCarthy talked about. And that was one of the things where, he said, hey, I got to own that is they made a lot of changes with all of that stuff going on with COVID. And,
Right.
and I don't think you can underestimate that of
No.
the changes that they made. So I don't want to crap on the guy because he had a solid NFL coaching career. Yeah, I mean, he was there with the Ravens. I mean, he was part of some of those defenses with the Ravens, if my memory's right. And so anyway,
Yeah.
but yeah, he wouldn't have saved it. Lawrence Taylor. I mean, Lawrence Taylor made Bill Parcells. I mean, then Troy Aikman made no, Charles Haley made Jimmy Johnson, or Tony Tolbert
Right.
made. Yeah, I mean, what do you want? I mean, you got to have good players, but maybe Bill Parcells made Lawrence Taylor. Maybe there's a reason why Bill Parcells goes to the Jets and wins. There's a reason why he goes to Dallas and wins. There's a reason why he goes to New England and wins. And I'm talking wins instantly, taking over a crap team with pretty much the same roster. So
Yeah.
Ultra man, I love you, but I think you're off the mark there with that. I think there's always a combination. You got to have good players, but you got to have really good coaching. Football is the ultimate. I mean, Kelly. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I think football is just the ultimate sport where coaching matters.
Absolutely.
I think me back in the Heat days, we'll bring up the Heat when they had LeBron and the boys. You and I probably could have rolled that ball out and won 70 games.
Yeah, it's a major difference between basketball and football, man. Coaching matters in football. I don't think coaching, in my opinion, does not matter in the NBA. If you've got the talent on the floor, you let these guys do stuff. Sure, you may drop a play here and there, man, but you're not there's no just. I mean, hell, look at Phil Jackson. I mean, Phil Jackson as a coach, great with the Bulls, right? But look at that team he had, right? You got Michael Jordan, the greatest overall player ever, right? And you got Scottie Pippen, great number 2. You've got Kukoc, great roster around him. Then he goes out and he coaches Los Angeles Lakers, wins several more titles there. But who is he dealing with? Probably one of the top 5 greatest players, and one of maybe top 3. I'm not debate that, but Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, I mean,
okay?
People forget how great Shaquille O'Neal was at center.
Great, absolutely phenomenal. That guy would unblock. He would unclog any lane, no matter how clogged it was. He'd just body you down and just dunk on you nasty. And then you got guys like Robert Horry, talented roster, right? So then, when shit gets played out in LA and things start to go downhill and the roster starts going, he starts slipping a little bit. He decides he's going to move out to New York Knicks. No talent, complete fucking debacle. The guys ran out of what is he ran? He coached for New York for what? A couple of years before he was ran out of town. I mean, that was an absolute shit show. And it just goes to show, man, he was still running the same triangle, but he couldn't fucking win there because he didn't have the talent.
Yeah.
But when you talk about the NFL, you got guys like Parcells that went from team to team to team and literally rebuilt teams.
And let's talk about. I mean, I'm hearing Parcells with Romo. Anyone who's a Cowboys fan, I don't know how they don't know that Sean Payton was the reason that Tony Romo was with the Cowboys, because they both were quarterbacks at the same school.
Yep.
And Romo actually, if you guys know the backstory of it, and obviously any fan probably does. I mean, he had more money going to Denver. It was down to Denver and Dallas, and he went to Dallas because he looked at the roster and he looked at the quarterback room, and obviously with Sean Payton. But God damn it, Bill Parcells went to the playoffs with Quincy Carter as his quarterback, for Christ's sake.
Yep. Yep, he did, man. He did. And you know what? That it wasn't the you look at that roster, that 2003 roster, honestly, that was not a talented roster at all,
No.
man. You look
Did we
up
have
and down
Troy
that.
Hambrick? Was he the
I
starting
think
running back that
I
year?
I think it probably was him. That 2003 roster was not good at all. They fucking made the playoffs. I think they were 10-6 that year, but
Yeah.
make the playoffs go and then they get smacked around by Carolina. But you look at these. I mean, hell, Sean Payton. He basically he's the reason by you look at Drew Brees, he was not having success with the Chargers. You think if Drew Brees was the guy that he was when he went to the Saints and Sean Payton developed him into a Super Bowl winning quarterback, you think if the Chargers knew that's what Brees was going to be, that they would have ever traded him away? No,
Yeah.
no,
No,
they
I mean, and in respect for Brees, he was good with the Charger, but
he
then
was
he had that
good.
arm thing. But I mean, they drafted, they didn't believe in him. They drafted Philip
No,
Rivers. I mean, they love it. But Sean Payton, to your point, I mean, he's a great quarterback mind.
turn that guy around though,
He
man. I mean, he
he
just
did, and I think if you listen to Romo, the thing, but Parcells really got Romo to that next level of just his work ethic and then everything else that went in being a quarterback. And I think that's what Parcells was doing. I don't know how we got on this Parcells conversation. I love Parcells too, as you could probably see him, even though he wasn't a Cowboy long. I've read a lot about him. I've watched him, obviously, growing up as a kid, and his Hall of Fame speech and things like that. And you just listen to the way he was and the way he did things. I mean,
yeah,
he wasn't an easy guy to deal with. Make no mistake about it. But I just think he was just one of those great football minds of the NFL. And watching what he did in Dallas, you got to understand. If you're a Cowboys fan, like most of us all were, and Kelly and I were right there, it was some shitty ass days, pardon the language, just some really bad days being a Cowboys fan. And when Parcells got there, instant credibility. And you look with the first draft pick, right? If my memory serves me, is DeMarcus Ware, Marcus Spears, who had he was a solid, he was a solid pick and they started building that roster. And if you think about it, from Parcells on, the team's been respectable. Now we talk about the
yeah,
Garrett years and and some of the pain of that, but it really was Parcells coming in here and getting the Cowboys back to respectability, because we were absolutely the bottom feeders, and we were just, with the draft and everything that was going on with the organization, we were just heading south. And
yeah.
so maybe that's why I got this love for Parcells too, because he finally got us back to something.
Yeah. Well, and I just when Parcells was there, I mean, obviously you can't, like we said, it's Sean Payton is responsible for Tony Romo and him being on, but Parcells being the disciplinary he was, making that, saying, hey, we're not gonna have a quarterback like this on the roster that fails a drug test. Him cutting Quincy Carter paved the way for Tony Romo, because I always look at that roster and think to myself that going into that 2004 season, Romo probably doesn't make that team. Or what was it, 2004,
It was
2005?
1 year where Quincy Carter got the drug
It
thing,
was
and he was on
maybe
the
it was
bubble.
2005 when
Yeah,
because it was right before, because I think he made the roster in 06, but
yeah.
they cut him. And I mean, Romo is a fringe guy at that point. He's like the third, I think he's third string, and maybe even fourth quarterback. So I mean, Romo was kind of down on the roster. I don't know that they would have kept him if Carter doesn't get cut from that roster. So Parcells being the disciplinary was and kicking his ass out of town, not to say but
Yeah.
that was something that paved the way for Romo too. But Parcells is a great coach, man. He's one of the best, man. I think outside of probably Bill Belichick,
Yeah.
who I think is a really great coach. I think Parcells is probably, one of them that's on the Mount Rushmore of coaching.
Oh yeah.
In
No,
football.
absolutely. No, he was he definitely is one of my favorites. And I was trying to read through some of these chats of Roma. And again, when he left with that drop snap, I think I might have had it on there, but that was just one of those,
2006.
and if anyone who knows Parcells, he's not long for any job. It's usually about 5 years, and I think he's one of those guys that He likes to build things, and then it just kind of, he's quick to kind of move on. That's maybe some people don't like that. I wish he. I still believe in my heart if he stayed, they won a Super Bowl. I mean,
Yeah, I
there's
know.
not a doubt in my mind, and I think they win it with Romo, and I think Romo's a better quarterback with Parcells there, and I think they win a Super Bowl.
And I often wonder too that if Parcells, in hindsight, if he could look back on it and know what Romo was going to be. I think they did see the flashes of Romo. You know what I mean? I think he saw that, but early on in Romo's career, well, for a lot of Romo's career, man, he kind of had that propensity to take chances and to be a gunslinger and to make those some of those boneheaded plays that not probably, they drove Parcells nuts. I remember him talking about it several times, like, the kid's gotta dial it back a little bit. You can't always be the hero. But I wonder if Parcells kind of looks at who Tony Romo eventually, because Tony Romo was an absolute assassin in terms of knowing where people were going to be on the field. You hear it now in the booth when he's announcing. So I kind of wonder if Parcells looks back at that and thinks, yeah, I could have won a Super Bowl with that guy as my quarterback. You know what I mean? Because I absolutely agree. I think that was the difference between Romo winning and not winning a Super Bowl was coaching. Because there was some very talented rosters around Romo in his time in Dallas, talented enough to win a Super Bowl.
Oh, hands
unquestionably.
down. Hands
down. Just coaching, decision making, different things of that nature which makes things so disappointing, man, because I feel like we're repeating the fucking cycle, man. Wash, rinse, repeat.
No, well, it could be the curse. It could be, but the one thing about that Seattle game, and I've said it on here. Yeah, that kick should have never happened. That game was over, and it was BS that the referees changed the spot on the Witten catch, that they ruled it a first down, and you can't tell me where you saw the ball or where you did anything where they could have moved it, and they moved it just far enough where it made it in a position to kick. Now the funny thing is I don't know if there's any interest in it, but like I said, that if Grammatica threw that one block, Grammatica lives like not far from from me. I don't know. I always said, man, I wonder if it'd be worth having him on and just 10 minutes and just recreate that scenario and what the hell was going on through his mind. And just in that, I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know if it'd be interesting for us, but he's a soccer coach now in the area. So I run into him at the diner every now and then. I see him there. So I don't know if that'd be a fun one to have.
I think it'd be fun to have. I'd love to go over that deal, but remind me if I could be wrong. Memory may be failing me here, but now wasn't it rainy and the ball was slick, and then like the next year they made a rule where they would change out with the dry ball. They would change it. They would dry them off.
I don't think it was rainy. It was something about where they were where you couldn't scuff the ball. There was something, and they changed the rule because the ball was really like brand new, never touched. And
yeah, there was something kooky like that where I remember that they changed the rule. I think the very next year, the competition committee, and I thought, well, fuck, wouldn't that have been nice to happen? You know what I mean? Because it was kind of one of those things where the ball slipped, whatever. And it seems like that's always our luck. You know what I mean? They changed that rule the next year. They fucking changed the Des Bryant catch. It would have been a catch the following year because the competition committee is like, we're gonna bend the Cowboys over and stick it to them any chance we get. But then next year we'll right that wrong by changing the rules so that nobody else gets screwed over. Just as long as it's the Cowboys, that's fine.
And in that game, you talk about with why the hell it was a placeholder is because Romo was the backup, I guess, right? Wasn't that he going into the season? He was the backup.
He was the backup, took over
the holder. So he stayed the holder the whole time because I guess it's a comfort level and the kicker and this and that for whatever reason. Because usually the backup is the holder. Yep. And you look back at that and you say, God dog, there's so many things but I think someone had made a comment, maybe it was Ultraman. I love Romo, and I'm staring at his jersey in the Cowboys cave and his arms up, and one of them is throwing a pass, but just he just had a way for bad things, unfortunately, to happen to him at the worst time. And I think just sometimes you're made that way. And sometimes you've got a guy like a Tom Brady, or you got a guy, like a Nick Foles, in that moment, you get some of these guys that it's just the moment. It's not too big for him. I'm not saying it wasn't, but it just seemed like the worst things happen to Romo. If you look at his career, it's always at the worst possible times.
Yeah. Well, I remember telling one of my buddies this back when Romo was playing. I said he reminded me of that part. I'm pretty sure you've seen it. I think most everybody's the movie Tommy Boy. And when he's talking about why he can't get a sale, and he's like, it's like this little muffin. And he's like, and I got this new toy, and he's like, and I want to love it and squeeze it, and then and he just like demanded. Like that was Tony Romo, man. He just like was just so happy. He was like so excited and jacked to be in the moment, but then he just fucking spaz out. You know what I mean? And it just always reminds me of that part when Tommy's telling why he can't take a sale, because every time he's in there and it's time to close the fucking deal, he spazzes the fuck out. And that was Romo in a nutshell, man. It's like he played great the entire game. The Denver game, that one wasn't even a
game. We said and shout out to Francisco, man. We're international, as you can see, Kelly.
Woo, look at that from Mexico. Viva la Mexico!
I gotta show love for that, but that is his career. You and I have said that a million times.
Yeah.
If you're gonna, if anyone said, hey man, what was Tony Romo's career like? When my grandkids, and they're Cowboy fans, because they better be, otherwise my kids get left nothing. When they come up to me and they say, hey man, tell me about Romo. I'm gonna put on that game. I'm saying, watch the game. That's his career. Period. That's his career in a nutshell. Yeah. And that's unfortunate. But that's what that as a quarterback, that's what you can remember for. You and I could talk all day because you got Dak, and that's another hot button. And until he can prove otherwise, he's going to fall in that same line. And that's just it's the job you signed up for, being a quarterback in the NFL. That's the way you're judged. And unfortunately, when you got the star on your helmet, it changes more, because there hasn't been a whole lot of talk about Justin Herbert blowing a 27-point lead in the playoffs. Josh Allen. There hasn't been a whole lot of talk about some of the blunders that he's made, in the playoffs. If people are remembering the performances, they're going to remember Burrow. They're going to remember, Mahomes. They're going to remember those moments of these guys taking their team to the Super Bowl and of course winning it.
Yeah, and I agree. It's sad that that's the way that it's played out, but it's the way that his career is played out. Unfortunately, right now it's the way Dak's career is playing out. The lucky thing for Cowboys fans right now, and I have to remind Eagles fans on a daily basis, Romo's career is over, but Dak's career is not over, right?
Yeah,
Dak's career is not over. It's going into year 8. And I was looking down the list the other day of great quarterbacks that have won Super Bowls and that won it later in their careers, and there's a lot of them.
There's a ton.
There's a ton of them.
Yeah.
You look at guys like, who was it? I don't have the list in front of me, but there was several of them. Peyton Manning comes to mind for one. He got his in year 8. I know people have said, well, Dak's not Peyton Manning. I'm not saying he's not Peyton Manning. I'm saying that not all quarterbacks win a Super Bowl early in their career. A lot of them take time to develop, and there's a lot of shit that happens, because as much as people talk about quarterbacks, and we've talked about it and say, hey, your legacy's made in the playoffs, fair or unfair, that's the way it is. It's still a team sport. There's still luck involved. There's still things that you have to go your way, because you can look at every single Super Bowl run through the history of time, and every team that's won the Super Bowl, there's always a little bit of luck involved. There's always, you've got minimal injuries. You have a player to go your way. You have, this or that, whatever it may be. All that shit plays into it, and it's a complete team. It's a complete team game. But you do need your quarterback to play his best in the playoffs. And that's what's been frustrating about Dak, is that he has not played his best. He did in the Green Bay game his rookie season, but outside of that, he had that one win in Seattle where, he didn't play bad. He did pretty good in that Seattle playoff game. Yeah. He's had two pretty good playoff games, and then he's had 2 pretty horrible.
Yeah, I mean, the San Francisco, that's his. The other playoff games, what is he, 2-4? Lost to Green Bay his rookie year. He played good. That was that amazing comeback. If it wasn't for the 3rd and 19, I still believe we win that game.
And he lost
lost against the
Rams.
Rams, right?
Which that was our defense just
That was
getting
not we got
completely.
ran over by
Yeah.
some no-name running back.
Right,
Was it
yeah.
Anderson or one of them? And then, of course, the 2 San Francisco games, he played like trash. I mean, you
Yep.
can't call it any other way.
Yeah.
But here's the interesting thing. Dak's better, and I would say I think Dak is a better quarterback than Eli Manning. The difference
Absolutely.
is, what
Absolutely.
does Eli do in the playoffs? Would you take those Eli Manning years over the Dak years? I mean, to a man, you're going to take it in 2 seconds, I would think, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I sit there and I look at that and I don't fucking know. I just it's frustrating, but I think Dak is a better quarterback than Eli. I'd take Dak over Eli any day. But when when I hear these people and they're like, "Well, you can't win a Super Bowl without a elite quarterback, a guy that's in the top 5 to 10 range," and I'm like, that's not true. Eli Manning was never a top 5 to top 10 fucking quarterback in his career.
No.
No, he wasn't. He was never looked at as an elite guy. He was a tweener. And so he just happened to make some clutch plays at the right time and had some good defenses around him. Again, it's a great team game. But Trent Dilfer didn't. I mean, fucking who was the name of that Bears quarterback? He didn't win the Super Bowl, but he got to a Super
Rex
Bowl.
Grossman. Rex Grossman
got to a goddamn Super Bowl with the Bears. Rex Grossman was fucking horrible. I wouldn't even consider him a top 20 quarterback.
No, he's not a top one. He's not a top 500 quarterback. They got there. That was the biggest fluke. The Bears. I mean, their defense was unbelievable. That was a year. I think it was Peanut Tillman. You had Urlacher. I mean, these unbelievable turnovers. And what's Kelly K9 drinking?
I'm drinking on some Woodford Reserve. I like my whiskey, so Woodford Reserve tonight, fellas.
And also, Francisco, you spread the word in Mexico and let them know the Tag and K9 are here, man. We got a lot of love. We got a lot of love there. So spread the word, but appreciate it. So is Eli Manning? I guess we're getting sidetracked. Is Eli Manning a Hall of Famer in your eyes?
No, I don't think so. But I think he's going to get in.
Then Jim Plunkett's got to get in. Then Jim Plunkett's won a couple Super Bowls, right?
My whole thing is it's if it's that, because if that's what you're going to do, if you're going to judge it off of Super Bowl wins, and that's the sole, that's what you need. You need some good plays in the playoffs, and that's what you need. Then there's plenty of guys that have been left off the list.
Yeah,
and if Eli gets in, then you're going to have to let those guys in. So. I don't think Eli's a Hall of Famer.
I think he's maybe. I don't know if he's a 500. If he is, he's barely over 500. But I mean, the thing is, his performances, and they may not have been great in the other defense, but he had some good games, man, in the playoffs. You got to give him that. And
he played good when it mattered.
He beat an undefeated, New England Patriots team, and maybe hey, a little luck has something to do with everything sometimes, man. We all get a little lucky here and there, but that's where I'm saying that's that fine line. Eli Manning is luck, Romo unlucky. I mean, if you're going to do that, but that's just the way it is.
It's the football gods. They smile upon some and they frown upon others, and we don't know the reasons why, man. But that's the way that it is, man. But I don't think Eli Manning is a Hall of Famer. I mean, I think if I remember right, I think he led the league in interceptions 3 times in his career.
Yeah.
And I mean, how do you put a guy in the Hall of Fame that led the league in interceptions, not one season, but multiple seasons? It was at least 3 times that he led the league, I know. So no, I don't think he's a Hall of Fame guy. He won those Super Bowl. I'm not taking anything away from him because, like you said, he made great plays and clutch plays in those playoff games. But he also had a very, very stout defense again. I mean, those defenses of the New York Giants, in those mid 2000 years was,
they were good, but they were not. I mean, the one team was 9-7. I mean, it wasn't like it. The 85 Bears.
No, what it was that they were good defenses with good defensive players, and what it was is when they got in the playoffs, it's like a switch flipped.
Yes.
And they just were playing out of their minds because when you saw them, you thought, damn, like, how the fuck did that team win the Super Bowl? Because I saw that team earlier in the season, and I
Yes.
sure as hell didn't think that was a
Yes.
Super Bowl winning team. But they just, playoffs came, switch flip, and they were money, and
Yeah.
Eli was money, and that defense was, so it's one of those things where you hope that the Cowboys can do that, and you hope that they can become one of those teams that when they get in the playoffs, that switch flips and that that light comes on for Dak and it comes on for the rest of the boys, and they can carry this team into a Super Bowl win. So a lot of factors play into it. It just hasn't happened for us in a very long time, but eventually all streaks must end eventually.
It has to. I never would imagine it would be. I mean, you almost got to just laugh at it at 27 years. I mean, I just never would have imagined that, in 90, January 96, I watched Dallas win that Super Bowl and hoist up that trophy that it would be the last time. And I think Clarence might be right. We're going to have to investigate this.
I just saw that.
Did you see that? Where'd it go?
I was going to try to put that up there.
Yeah, maybe I hit it. There you
go.
go. That could be true. There could be something there. We might have to investigate that.
Yeah, look at this. Carl is doing identity fraud, and he's become ultra.
But yeah, so I mean, it is just So it's gonna be a fun year. The thing I just have this feeling. We hoist that trophy up. What is your prediction of the odds that the narrative in the media is Dallas won in spite of Dak, if that happens?
I would say it would be a good thing. It would be a good bet. Believe it or not, actually, something that I completely forgot that I read an article on. You know how PFF loves to fucking hate on the Cowboys.
Yeah.
There's supposed to be an independent research and all this stat shit, whatever. They said that the Cowboys' biggest position area of weakness on this football team right now is the quarterback position. I don't buy that for a second.
I don't
buy that for a second. You say what you want about Dak not performing in the playoffs. I don't buy that for a second. I still believe Dak is a top 10 quarterback. I got him in the top 10 because I look around at the other 32 quarterbacks. You name me 9 quarterbacks that are better than Dak Prescott. I guarantee you I'm going to have a big argument with whoever your 8 and 9 guy is before Dak if you're putting him at 10. I'm putting Dak in about the 8 to 10 range is where I put Dak. And yeah. I would argue with anybody. I'll put the numbers up. Just because you haven't won in the playoffs and you haven't played your greatest in the playoffs does not mean you are still not one of the better quarterbacks because you look at the things that Dak has done. He's been a good, and he's, I would say, great at times, even because he's had a few great seasons. Regular season quarterback just hasn't been able to put it together in the playoffs. But several quarterbacks go through that before they get it put together, man. So that's not an area of weakness, man, for me. But I absolutely think the media would run with that and say that they won it. That's why I hope, man, that Dak just balls out, has an MVP season, rolls through the playoffs, and just has some incredible games, phenomenal plays, and just shut people the fuck up, man.
Oh, I know.
I would love nothing more than to have the national media have to just sit there with their thumbs in their asses giving the Cowboys credit, because that would eat them son of a bitches up, man, having to give them credit. Yeah. And, say what you want about a lot of the national guys, man, being haters and stuff.
Yeah,
man.
wait. I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm sorry. This is the part that gets me is right. When you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever that is, Justin, if your narrative is going to be playoffs, and I'm hearing Ultra talk about Dak in the playoffs, don't freaking come up here with Herbert, because that dude, his playoff performance absolutely sucked. He blew a 27-point lead, and also, what's his record? You know what I'm saying? He's been in the playoff one time, so and I think Herbert's good, so don't get me wrong. I think he is one of the top young quarterbacks. So, but I'm saying is if all these people are going to go by the narrative of, the playoffs matter, the quarterback, the playoff matters, how he performs in the playoff matters, which I think it does matter. Let's just be frank about that. Is don't put that dude's name in front of Dak if that's what we're going by.
I agree 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, okay, and here's his So we've got here this other thing. All right, he said, and I'll give it to him. You know, he put Trevor Lawrence in there. Even if you want to go with,
Lawrence I like. Yeah.
I do like Trevor Lawrence. I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I'm not putting him in front of Dak right now though, because
Not right now.
not
Yeah.
right now. Maybe eventually, but I mean, when you look at it, I mean, what has he done to justify that he's better than that? I mean, obviously he hasn't had the talent around him, but I mean that, you know, his first season, he was a 71 passer rating. Last year, he had a great season, 25 touchdowns and 8 interceptions with a 95 passer rating. But hell, Dak Prescott's rookie year, he was at 105 passer rating.
Yeah.
His rookie year. So, I mean, I get it. There's a talent difference there. But Trevor Lawrence has had some pretty good guys that he's been playing around too, man. He's playing with Leonard. He got Leonard Fournette when Leonard Fournette was playing at the top of his game. Fournette was a pretty damn good running back that he had. So, I don't know, man. I
don't think he had Fournette. I don't.
No,
think
he didn't. Fournette. That's wrong. I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I am wrong. Fournette was already gone.
I know someone's going to attack us, so I want to make sure they don't want to.
Hey, well, listen, I've been drinking some. I've been drinking some whiskey.
And that's the thing is, I mean, we're fans, and I can tell you right now, there's no notes. I got one page of notes, and it's basically Ian Beckles. Don't forget to talk about that. Jeff Bostic. We got a Redskin coming on, and I almost forgot my man Boomer, aka Anthony. I want to make sure he's a loyal subscriber and follower of our show. He's in the hospital, not feeling well. His wife reached out via Twitter, so we just want to wish him, get well soon. We're thinking of you and definitely appreciate it. But that's our notes. We're speaking from our minds, so we're not going to get everything right. Now, Trevor Lawrence, if you want to make an argument higher, we could debate it. I mean, you're kind of splitting hairs. Jalen Hurts. You could, I mean, if someone can, and I'm going to be honest, if someone came to me and say, hey, I'm going to take Jalen Hurts over Dak Prescott, I can't give a big argument. I mean, I like Dak Prescott's game, but I like Jalen Hurts too. I'm not, but when you're coming at playoff success, that's the part that pisses me off is people define Dak by playoff success. I've watched this man play. I've watched every game, just like mostly everyone else. There's been a hell of a lot more good than bad. I mean, I've seen this guy light it up. You talked about that T.Y. Hilton pass. You talk about, the 40s he's dropped. He's dropped 40 on Philly. I mean, I think every year that he's played in the league. He dropped 50 on a team. He's dropped 50. I mean, look at the points per game on the offense. The guy's done, he's a top quarterback. If you want to stain him, then you're going to say his playoff success, and that's legitimate. You can't hide that. But if that's going to be your barometer, do not go bringing in Herbert into this conversation right now.
Yeah, and the thing with Dak, I was trying to look up something here. I wanted to look up a stat. He has been, outside of last year, man, he's not a guy. All of a sudden, they've taken this narrative that he's a turnover-prone interception guy. He's been a guy that's not been an interception guy. He's a guy that makes the safe play. He doesn't throw a lot of picks. So that's just that's a misnomer. He's not a guy that throws a lot of picks.
Kelly, one day you get up early, you join me on Coffee and Cowboys because we had this conversation, and I did my research that time I did, and Dak Prescott this last year, his interception percentage was more than double of any other year. 5 of his 7 years, his interception percentage was 1.8 or below. Yep. He had 1 year where he was 2.3, I think it was, something like that. Last year, he was like 3.8, something, the highest it's ever been. So for 6 other years, he's pretty much been under 2, which is that's top. That's Aaron Rodgers is one of the few that are ahead of him. So I just want to validate what you just said. Okay. You're 100% correct.
Thank you for backing me up. You guys know
I got your back, man.
You guys know that I'm not, so that way they don't know I'm just been, on my 3rd glass of whiskey over here. But no, and that's the thing though, is Dak is not a guy who's been known for his interceptions. And look, he's an accurate passer with the deep ball. And when you look at those interceptions last year, I don't care if you hate Dak and you think he's a bum quarterback. If you can look at those interceptions last year and you put every interception on Dak, I'm sorry, man. It's It's like watching baseball when the shortstop throws a perfect strike to the first baseman and he drops the fucking ball and the runner's on there, and then it goes against the pitcher as a run. Shouldn't count as a run because it should have been an out. It was an error on your. Same way for these guys that are dropped. I mean, how many tipped balls did Dak have interception? I think I remember, I'm pretty sure it was 6 or 7 of his interceptions came off tipped passes from the wide receivers. And when I say tipped passes, I'm not talking that they were bad passes like he was throwing behind the guy, throwing too high. Yeah. No, they bounced off these dudes' chest or they went right off of their hands, catchable balls that ended up in the hands of the DB. So if you're sitting there and telling me, well, that's Dak, he's trash, this, that. Even the San Francisco game, when we all agree that he played bad, I'm not making any excuses for him. He had that one interception where when you go back and you look at the film and, and I'm going to trust guys like Brian Baldinger, who I think breaks down game film better than anybody, goes back, looks at it, and absolutely said that, the interception Dak threw when he was in the red zone, he said, hey, inexcusable, that's on Dak. But there was that one where it was a curl route where the receiver, Dak's expecting him to break about 5 yards sooner than what he does, releases the ball when he's supposed to, but the receiver didn't do what he was supposed to. So it's on the receiver. And there were several interceptions that were like that, where it was timing routes where the receiver's supposed to be at a spot, but he either breaks too soon or comes back, doesn't come back on it when he's supposed to. And that got credited to Dak. You gotta understand, if you don't have receivers that are competent, and you don't got these guys that are in sync with your quarterback, you're gonna have shit that happens like that, and it's gonna make Dak look bad. But it's not true to the story. It's not the narrative. It's not the narrative that the national media is spinning.
No, and I think Mike Martz, we talked about too, another offensive mind with the greatest show on turf. You can find him on YouTube. He did the same breakdown, and he showed all the interceptions. Dak has to own it, I think.
Well, yeah,
I think that's the other thing is the offense. I think with McCarthy and what he's going to be doing, that's something that I think McCarthy is going to be more involved with. I mean, you could say what you want about McCarthy. Go back and look at all the old films. I mean, he's a QB. He does QB schools, QB train. I mean, he knows quarterback. He knows that quarterback position. He studies it, knows it, and I think he's going to again help get Dak in the best position to win. And that's really going to be his job. And to your point earlier of, hey, you want Dak to win the MVP and blow all these stats. I mean, I don't, in a way. I want Dak to be efficient, effective. I want the defense to do their thing. And I just want us to win the damn Super Bowl and just shut these people up. And that's big. That's Dak's biggest FU, because they are going to continue to hate him. The only way they won't is if he does what you say and he throws 5,000 yards. And I hope he does and does all those great things. But the media is never going to give him his due. And you've seen it. I mean, the guy, for whatever reason, it's beyond me. I mean, the guy, he lost his mother. He lost his brother. I mean, he's done so much in the community, NFL Man of the Year. But the media just has something against him. And I'm not going to get into the whole race thing, but it's not, it's to me, it's not even a race thing, because his race dogs him probably worse than anybody. Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of times they say, oh, they're going after the quarterback, because he's a black quarterback. The media, you look at Shady McCoy and you look at the guys on ESPN, they absolutely destroy him. I don't understand it. He's a top 8 quarterback, to your point. And I think someone put on there, Steve, you could take Herbert, you could take Hurts, you could take Dak at 6, 7, and 8, and you can flip them around any way you want. I got no argument with that. To me, it's silly. It's Patrick Mahomes. Maybe you want to throw one guy, Burrow, you want to throw him at 2, and it's everybody. It's a big pile. You can just flip whoever you want. I mean, Patrick Mahomes and everyone else, really.
I agree 1,000%. And I think that if Dak was to win the Super Bowl and get to the Super Bowl, I do think that the narrative would start to turn on him, because I do think that he does have such a great story, a feel-good story, that the media could run with it, and all of a sudden everybody's going to jump on and start riding his jock like they've been Dak fans. But I don't know if I'm a movie guy. Love to quote movies. I love movies. Okay, if you've seen the new movie Air.
No, I want to watch this. Is it
Okay, you
good?
got to watch it. It's a
Yeah.
great sports movie. It's about the Nike company going after and pursuing Jordan. Right? It was Matt Damon has this speech in there, and he starts talking about. He says they're going to build you up. They're going to build you up, and they're going to tear you down. They're gonna find flaws in your game. They're gonna go through your personal life. They're gonna do this. They're gonna do that. They're gonna tear you down because that's what they love to do. That's what the media. That's what we love to do as a nation: is build you up, tear you down.
They
Because
do.
if you think about Dak Prescott, and in 2016 rookie season, they were talking about a phenomenal 4th round draft, and it doesn't get talked about enough that he's a 4th round draft pick, and he still can. And he's a top 10 quarterback in this league. All these other quarterbacks that are in that conversation are 1st round guys.
Yeah.
They're besides what Hurts was drafted in the 2nd round, right?
2nd round.
Second round. But I mean, none of these top 10 guys were drafted in the 4th round, right? So, they were all about Dak. They were all about his story. They were all about his journey. And now it's just like it is almost, to me, become like a circle of bullies where just like everybody is just shitting on Dak. At any chance they get, they're just completely shitting on him. So for me, it's almost personal to the fact that I'm like, I've been critical of Dak, but I want him to win more than anybody else. As a Cowboys fan, how can you sit there and not want him to succeed? If you are rooting against Dak, then you're rooting against the fucking Cowboys, which if that's the case, take your shit off and fucking throw it away, because what the fuck are you doing? Right?
Yeah.
Every Cowboys fan should be rooting for Dak to succeed. And I am rooting for him harder than anybody because I want him to shut everybody up. I want him to flip that narrative on top of their head and just watch how quick they turn him into this success story, and how they start harping on how great of a guy he is, how hard of a journey he's come and overcome all this stuff, because it's exactly what they'll do.
No, and you're 1,000% right. And I'll just never understand it. I mean, the guy was at Mississippi State. I mean, anyone who follows college football, that's not a powerhouse. Let's just be honest. They were ranked number 1. I mean, he had him number 1 in the country for a while. I mean, he's been successful everywhere he's gone. He's been successful with Dallas. It just hasn't gotten gotten him over the hump in the playoffs. And, unfortunately, in the games that we saw, he's got to take ownership of that. But, there's you could put some, there's got to be some responsibility that goes around everywhere. It's like I said, you can nitpick certain plays. We talked about that Turpin play. If he just kind of went this way instead of running into the kicker, I mean, he's gone. I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday. I mean, I know it. And so, I mean, there's certain things that happen, but Dak, I still believe once he gets that Super Bowl, I think you could see a run. And I think you could see a run with the Cowboys, because I think so much weight and so much pressure and so much stuff is just going to be off his back and all these other guys, where you just wonder if this team is just getting too tight in these games. Like we've got to be perfect and we've got to win it. We got to shut everyone up, because, everyone can say, and I've got things going on in my job, and I got things going on in life just like you. And we all can say that we zone it out. We don't take things personal, and we do. I mean, I've had things happen, in my job where I should just let it roll over, but it's like you take it personal. And I think you can't tell me that you're hearing all this stuff from the media that you don't hear it and it doesn't affect you and it doesn't kind of trigger you in some way. So I don't know, man. It's just, I think when he gets it this year, man, it's, you could see the run like the 90s.
Yeah, and it's hard not to, as a fan of the team, it's hard not to get triggered by a lot of the things that people say as far as like emotional wise, right? Because, at the end of the day, I've always said that I root for the Cowboys, not the players. I root for the star, the team, the organization. But you do start to care about these guys, man, because you realize that these guys are humans and just like us, man, and they go through these battles and they've got these things that they have to overcome. And, I don't know, man. I'm a guy that likes to look at it like I love a great story. I love a guy who's overcome adversity, and I love a guy who just consistently, fights and keeps his head down and keeps grinding and pushing. And that's Dak.
Yeah,
he's what I would consider kind of like an underdog story, man. That we in the 4th round draft pick, the first time, that was actually the first time that Mississippi State had ever been ranked number 1 in the nation ever. in the history of their program under Dak Prescott. Then he's drafted as a 4th-round draft pick to the Dallas Cowboys. You know, we've got Tony Romo as our starting quarterback. Nobody's thinking Dak Prescott's going to start as a rookie. And he comes in preseason, and I remember watching him in preseason and thinking, holy shit.
No.
Like, this kid's got something. Like, he's special, you know. And then you watch Tony Romo go down in that preseason game against the Seahawks, and you're thinking, oh, fuck, man, our season's over.
I mean, Kellen Moore was going to be our guy, right? Didn't he break his hand? Was it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
earlier or whatever, but yeah.
You're sitting there and you're watching it and you're going, well, there's the fucking season. It's over. Dak Prescott comes in that Seattle game and just calm and cool, just drives them right down the field, and they score a touchdown, and you're going, damn, like, he wasn't even supposed to be coming in and playing starting right there. And then, you know, proceeds to win 13 games, man, and goes head to head with Aaron Rodgers. And if not for our defense shit in the bed, we win that fucking game. And he, you know, then who knows where the narrative goes from there, because, you know, I don't know that our defense is necessarily good enough to win the Super Bowl that year, but, you know, comes in and as a rookie goes head to head against Aaron Rodgers and fucking beats him, you know, and has the better game. So, you know, it's frustrating, man, but
it is. And we got a lot of, you know, and we're getting, your boys does have to go to bed soon, but
oh shit.
But the one thing, we're having good conversation. I almost texted you today when we were trying to figure, all right, man, this is a slow time in football. What the hell do you talk about? And I almost was going to say, hey, man, I'll just throw something on Dak, because if you bring Dak, it just triggers emotions from everyone.
Absolutely.
And you know, I know Ultra said, hey, if you don't take risks, you don't get success, whatever it is. They took a risk with Dak. I mean, geez, he was a 4th-round pick, and they gave up on Romo, you know, for a rookie. Now the rookie was playing good, but you know, there was part of us, and you know, there was some of us that were like, man, for in that playoff game, put Romo in when we're down, right? We got down a little early. How many of us, you know, if you're being honest with yourselves, like, man, like, don't go down this way, man. Put Romo in right now. And then all of a sudden, Dak just got going and going and going. And so, yeah, you do have to take risks. So it leads to the question is, you know, how long do you hold on to Dak? I mean, it's hard when you're winning, and all you want is opportunity to get in the playoffs. So if Dallas continues to have double-digit wins and they're going to the playoffs, I mean, how do you blow it up? Do you blow it? I mean, it's just because all it takes is lightning in the bottle. I mean, that's it.
Tough decision. It's a tough decision. And I posted that today. I said, you know, we got 4 guys coming up for contracts. We've got Diggs, Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, right? It's a very tough decision when you're the front office looking at Dak Prescott, because let's say, you know, hopefully he doesn't, knock on wood, but let's say he goes into playoffs this year and he doesn't have a great game, right?
Yeah.
You're sitting there in the front office, you're thinking, is it ever going to happen with him? Because, you know, what I'm expecting is I'm expecting our defense to have a jump this year and be even better than they were last year. And I think our defense is going to win us several games this year. I think our defense is going to be the reason we win quite a few games. I don't get me wrong. I think our offense would be just fine, but
yeah,
I think that our defense is the focal point of this team right now. It used to be built around offense. Now I feel like it's more catered towards the defense. We're concentrating on, hey, let's have a great defense and let's win with defense, right? So if he has another shitty playoff game, they're going to be looking at it going, man, I mean, we think he's a top 10 guy, but why is he choking in the playoffs? Why can't he play well in the big games? And if that, you know, it's a hard decision, because you're looking at it going, well, we won 12 games this year, won 12 games as last year. And then if we go on and let's say we win 11, 12 games this year, well, damn it, it's another double-digit season with, we've got a good team. We've got a good core. We think Dak's the guy, but how much faith do you have in him? How long do you stick with him? How long is his leash? It's a decision that I would not be one that I'd be wanting to make in the front office, because yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
And yeah, like this, you know, like Falcon says, you know, we got a 2-year window. If it doesn't happen in time to move on. I mean, it's true. Your window closes quicker than you think.
It does. I don't know. See, like the whole window thing, I think that was a lot back in the day, because you really built your team, you know, through the draft, and you had to go through a process, right? The Cowboys went 89, 90, 91, 3-year process, and then they get 92, 93, 94, 95, and then you just saw the wheels start to fall off slowly after. I don't know if that's necessarily the case now because you see these teams that just kind of come up and come down. And I think as long as you got a top 10 quarterback, you've got a shot. So I guess the question is if you're saying your window's 2 years, you're just going to move on from Dak and just say, all right, he's what, 32, 30. I don't know how old he is. So
Well,
how
well,
old
I
is
I I think that what the model for a lot of these teams, what you're seeing lately, the trend lately, is to get you a good stud rookie quarterback and then invest big money around him, right?
yeah.
Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, you know, Matthew Stafford might have been an exception because they brought in this really old dude and fucking, but he wasn't getting paid top dollar when they brought him in. They were still able. So you get a quarterback that's a good rookie. And that's where I think that the Cowboys fucked up. And I think
Oh,
that we missed our opportunity is when Dak was a rookie, they should have spend, because I've said it a billion times. I don't care if we are in cap hell and we are winning 5 games a year for the next 5 years and we got to rebuild, it takes 3 to 5 years or whatever to rebuild this roster back up to a playoff contingent team. Just fucking give me a Super Bowl, man.
yeah.
And I felt like they shit the bed when they didn't do that with Dak. They just refused to fucking put money into this team. They weren't spending money. They weren't getting these big name guys and guys that could help. And it cost them,
Yeah, Seattle did it, and as much as it pains, people. I mean, it'll be remain to, I guess Philly maybe is coming up, but shit, they got to the Super Bowl. All right, they didn't win it, but I give Philly credit last year for making those moves, getting Brown, getting the
yeah.
guys on defense, making midseason. You can criticize, yeah, they didn't win, but they had that opportunity and they had them on a rookie deal. Now that deal's gone. But to your point is that I'm with you 1,000%. It just infuriated me that they didn't do that. Now I'll say the draft's a little bit of a or the cap's a little bit of a joke. I think that's been proven. If the Dallas Cowboys want to spend the money and they want to get it, there's ways to work all those deals out. So,
Yeah.
we talk about the window. CD, I don't think is going anywhere. I don't think Diggs is going anywhere. These guys are in their prime. They're not 2 years and removed. So I don't think the window's 2 years. You got Parsons. You see how the defense is. See how Mozzie. We've drafted very well. You got Bland. I mean, we've got young guys. We've got young guys on this team.
Well, I think that team. I think that the Cowboys team is the second or third youngest roster in the league right now. I believe.
No, it is. It is.
So I know they're up there. So when you look at the youth on the roster, that's a testament to how well we've drafted.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you can keep infusing young talent, and that's the thing, is finding that balance of being aggressive enough in free agency to grab the guys that you need to improve your roster, like we did this year with the trade for Gilmore, bringing in Cooks, grabbing some talented guys. They may not be the elite top of the top guys that you're paying, top money for, but they're guys that improve your roster, and then doing that along with building in the draft and hitting on your draft picks, which, face it, the Cowboys, we've talked about this before. The Cowboys do better than pretty much anybody when it comes to the draft. You can go and you can look at the past 10 years, and Cowboys are one of the best teams at drafting talent. So as long as we can keep doing that, man, we will stay competitive.
And to clarify, 2 years move on from Dak, maybe not a window, is
okay.
Man said. So I just,
you might be right on that.
What are you gonna get? Now you can draft someone. I think they should draft a quarterback, and I just think it's like I said. Some guys said you just draft quarterback every year. You never know. You might get a Tom Brady in the 6th round. You might get a Dak Prescott in the 4th round. You might get one of these guys later. They probably need to start looking at getting someone that is there that can push him. Now they've never really done that. They've never really had a guy that can push him, or a young guy or anything like that. They've always been pretty safe. It's been the Matt Whites, the DiNucci's, some of these
Rush
journeyman guys. He's Andy Dalton, who's just kind of like just hanging out there. He's not going to challenge him for the job. Those kind of quarterbacks. So yeah, they probably, if things go, if they don't, in the NFC, the way it's set up now, barring injuries, injuries are part of the game, barring any catastrophic injuries, if this Cowboys team isn't in the Super Bowl, or at least in the championship game and lose a heartbreaker or something like that, it's an ultimate. It's an ultimate disappointment of a season because
Yeah.
NFC. I mean, there's Hurts and
Wide open.
Hurts and Dak are the only. Help me if I'm missing somebody, but Hurts and Dak are your only what I would call legit starting quarterbacks. Maybe you throw Stafford in there. I guess you could throw him in there from the Rams, but I don't think the Rams roster is very good. But as far as your rosters of teams that can compete, Jared Goff. All right, say the Lions are good. Jared Goff doesn't strike
Yeah.
fear in me, right?
No,
No
and
excuse for either one of these guys. It should be honestly, it should be Philly and Dallas in the championship game.
yeah, I mean, Dak is like you said. I think it's Hurts and Dak, and if you wanted to put Stafford in that mix, but if you've got one of the top quarterbacks in your conference, and he's 1A 1B, however you want to say it with Hurts, we can we can debate that. Whatever. I think Hurts has got a good game. I'm not going to sit there and bag on him.
We're not going to be what the Eagle fans are. I'll give credit. We're going to give credit. Hurts is a good quarterback, right?
I do. I think that. I don't think he's trash. I love to give them shit, and I love to talk, and I love to clown on him. The other day I called Hurts the Black Daniel Jones, and oh my god, it lit him on fucking fire. But in all reality, I get Hurts is a good quarterback, but what I'm gonna need to see from him is still the continued progression in the pass game. We get that he can run the ball very well. We get that I've seen him throw a very accurate ball, but there's still some improvement on his game that I still need to see from him to be sold that he is the guy that can be that he's going to be a long-term guy, because let's face it, man, a lot of these running quarterbacks, man, that tend to to make their bones by using their feet, they're kind of like they go in the way of running backs, man. They don't tend to last long because those injuries start piling up. And once you start getting those lower body injuries as a running quarterback, it changes the way that you play the game, and puts you as a pocket passer. And I wouldn't say right now that with Jalen Hurts that being a pocket passer is his strength. I don't think he's a great pocket passer. I think he's more of a kind of rollout guy. He's an option guy. He's of that nature. Now I think he can improve on that and get better. I'm not saying he can't. I've seen enough to know the dude throws an accurate ball. But when you talk about Dallas and you say Dak, he's in my opinion, he's like the best or maybe second best quarterback, however you want to flip that, in the NFC. So you've got to sit there and think, if you've got a great defense like what we got, and you've got a top 2 quarterback in your conference, we absolutely should be in the NFC Championship game this year. No fucking excuses why we can't get there. None.
No, and I laugh at these guys, and a comment of Belichick did not win a Super Bowl before or after Brady. Well, he won 2 Super Bowls with the Giants, being a defensive coordinator. He was also the coach for the Browns, and he took a terrible Browns team. And if anyone remember, then they moved to the Baltimore, so he's a lame duck thing. He had that team rolling, and go look at the staff that he built on that team. Belichick is a great, if not one of the greatest head coaches. It drives me nuts when these guys just he didn't win a Super Bowl. Brady won all those Super Bowls with him. So it was a team effort. I don't know. But you got to have good players, but you got to have a damn good coach, and his defenses were always one of the best. So I don't know what I just hate comments like that. It just drives me nuts.
Yeah, my whole thing is, if you want to find a way to discredit somebody bad enough, you'll find a way.
No, I know.
It's an unfortunate flaw in us as humans that if we don't like somebody enough, you will find a flaw to try to discredit what anybody has done. I can look at, and that goes for professional or personal life, man. You can always try to tear somebody down by saying, well, if you didn't have this, you wouldn't be this.
Yeah.
I learned a long time ago, man, to accept greatness for greatness.
Oh,
I may not have liked Tom Brady, but he was a
Jimmy Johnson never won without Troy Aikman. I mean, we could go down a list as long as you want. Bill Belichick put together with him and Parcells some of the greatest Giants defenses that won Super Bowls. And like I said, the work he did in Cleveland, obviously my man don't watch too much football or don't know shit. What he did in Cleveland was miracle work. So, I just
Well, Jerry,
people just say shit that it's just fucking dumb. I mean,
yeah, Jerry,
I don't know any other way to put it. So Don Shula is not a great head coach, right? Maybe he is, maybe not, because he never won a Super Bowl without Bob Greasy, or you know what I mean.
yeah.
Tom Landry never won a Super Bowl without Roger Staubach. I guess he sucks too. I mean, give me a break.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. People make those arguments for everything. I've heard it before. Elway wouldn't have won it without Terrell Davis. They talk about that. They say, well, he didn't win until Terrell Davis came along. He had to have a great running back to win it.
Of course, you have to have a team. You have to have a team. But John Elway took some teams to the Super Bowl that I cannot believe even made it to the Super Bowl. I mean,
well, and there, like I said, there's a difference between your borderline top 10 quarterbacks like Dak and a guy who's top of the heap. And, in my opinion, Elway was one of the guys that was top of the heap when he was playing. In my opinion, guys like that, because like you said, he took some uber talented teams. I think he was going to win a Super Bowl regardless. But of course, you got to have great players around you. It's funny, the narrative that it's like, well, he had to have this wide receiver or he had to have that. But like, that goes for everybody, man. Nobody fucking wins a Super Bowl. The only person that I could say since I've been watching football, the only person I could say that surprised the shit out of me, and I think surprised the shit out of a lot of people, and I think he's a generational talent, and I think he may end up being one of the most talented quarterbacks we've ever seen in our lifetime, is fucking Patrick Mahomes. What he did last year with the Chiefs was unfucking believable, because there was nothing really special about that defense. He was throwing to wide receivers that who the fuck not like Juju Smith was their number one wide receiver, which, I mean, in my opinion, Juju's a number two on almost every other team he goes to. So, granted, I'm not taking away from Travis Kelce, great tight end, but I mean, Mahomes is one of the guys who you're just like, how do you do that? But not many quarterbacks, if any, can do that. It's a team sport. You got to have talent around you. So.
Yeah, well, I want us to answer Francisco's question, but I do have one last Patrick Mahomes, and I might have said it before, so I apologize. The thing I'll tell you about Patrick Mahomes is my brother's a big Broncos fan, and so I mean he loves the AFC West and all that. He was so excited when Andy Reid got rid of Alex Smith for Patrick Mahomes.
Boy.
He thought they were he said he thought it was a stupid move, because honestly, I didn't know much about Patrick Mahomes. Like I told you, we were, you're sitting in the South. I never really seen him. I didn't know what he was about. I didn't know how good you obviously watched him, so you saw it a hell of a lot more than I did. So my brother's thinking, oh, they got they wasted this draft pick on this guy. Now they're getting rid of Alex Smith, who was the number one guy. The team was winning with him. I mean, Andy Reid was winning with him, and now they're going to go with this unknown guy. And, in his eyes, obviously he was a first-round pick, but he's like, boy, that was the dumbest thing ever that ever came out of my mouth. He goes, I regret that every day. So, I mean, he is on another level, and he's one of those generational guys that you had a Brady in his era, and Manning, and obviously, you go back to Elway and Montana, but Francisco, if you're just tuning into the show this week, you got it. I mean, you just don't know that Aaron Rodgers coming to Dallas. Your boy, tagging K9. We're going there to Dallas. We're gonna make sure that boy Aaron Rodgers is gonna end up like Tom Brady, and he could be packing his career up after we get done with him at AT&T. So I expect that we handle that business, and I think our defense is gonna. We're finally gonna get that little. If you want to call a monkey off your back, whatever it is, but we're going to finally right the wrong with Aaron Rodgers.
Damn right. We're going to be in the house and, make sure that Aaron Rodgers leaves in tears. So, and then, by the time that he is done in Cowboys Stadium, he will be debating whether he should have signed with the New York Jets or signed a contract with Jeopardy. That's what we're going to do to us, bitch.
We're going to get it going. But hey, man, listen to this. I told you, this is 2 weeks in a row we're gonna have to call our boy Nick's up, and we're gonna say you might have some competition because we're going 2 hours,
2 hour mark, but
hour show, and it's 11 p.m. My time, and I told you guys I got to get up at 4 a.m. So I hate to cut the show off because we're having such a great time, but you know your boys got to.
You got to get some sleep, man. You got to get some rest, man. Got to get some rest.
So, hey guys, we really do appreciate it. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, share. Every time Kelly K9 and we posted on Twitter, we seem to get more subscribers jumping up and after the show. So you guys continue to spread the word, man. If you're loving the show, you're loving what we do, you love what the channel brings, it's going to be more and more. Like I said, we got Jimmy D and I on Monday nights. We got sometimes do a little coffee and Cowboys. I gotta tell my man Kelly to get his ass up, maybe join me at an episode. And we're having some fun on this channel, so make sure you guys tune in. And Kelly, did I miss anything?
I don't think you missed anything, guys. You know, guys, we've said it before, man. The more you guys like, share, and subscribe, the more you get us out there, the better the content, the more that we can do for you guys, and we appreciate it as always. And I would definitely come on Cowboys and coffee. I might bring a Bloody Mary to the mix. I don't drink coffee. If I'm up that early in the morning,
we can do a little Bloody Mary.
Do a Bloody Mary in the morning. I could definitely do that. But I'm down for that. I can't wait till the season starts because I know we talked about doing some post game shows. We'll do 1 or 2. Try to fit a couple in some post game shows, and those I think are going to be a lot of fun. Me and you after a game, couple of cold drinks, emotions flying. I can't wait for that shit, man.
Some people might want to see it after a loss, but I want to see it after a win. I'm going to be selfish.
After a win. So, hey, man, thank you, Mike, for coming in and gutting it out for everybody, though.
Yeah.
I mean, getting up at 4 a.m., guys, this is the sacrifice that this man makes to bring this content. I mean, it's because we love it, man.
Yes.
It's because we love it, and you guys are one of the reasons why we love it because you guys make this show. So, appreciate it, and looking forward to talking to you guys again next week.
All right, man. You guys take care. We'll see you next week.
All right, Cowboys Nation.
The Eagles get ready, because you might not like it, but you will learn to love it because we are the best thing going today. Now, can you dig it?